Good evening. The freedom to work is the freedom to live. It's a fact of life. You cannot live in this world without some source of financial income. Most of us need a job to have any sort of financial help. If you cannot hold a job, if you can easily and legally be deprived of a job simply because of who you are, then you are being deprived of your ability to live. If society is saying that you don't have the right to work, then presumably society is saying that, rightfully speaking, you should be living in poverty. You should understand that you are something less than an equal citizen. You should not expect to be able to be a full participant in society in the way that any other person might expect for themselves. This is not only insulting, an assault on personal dignity, it has, as we have heard, real-life, practical, social, and physical implications as well. I am here tonight representing the Interfaith Alliance of Pennsylvania. We are a statewide organization dedicated to providing religious voices in support of a society marked by equality, justice, and compassion. And what brings me here tonight to speak on this issue is the role that the religious community has in the perpetuation of this situation. What really gets to me is that voices of faith are at the center of all the efforts to perpetuate this injustice. That any opposition we are going to see to outlawing this form of job discrimination is basically an extension of efforts by many in the faith community to deny a particular group of people the basic right to exist. There is a core group of people, of religious people in our society, who do not think gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people have the right to exist. They don't think they should exist. They don't think they do exist. To the extent that any gay, lesbian, transgender, or bisexual people do exist, they only think they exist. And that's only because they're sick. Or maybe just plain evil. And evil is a real category in theological discourse. This is not theoretical. All too often it seems that voices of faith depict gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgendered people as evil incarnate, whose gay agenda is a spear aimed at the heart of our social fabric, to mix a few metaphors. So clearly, to the extent that gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people don't exist, it makes no sense to write protections for a non-existent class into law. To the extent that they are evil, it would damage the social fabric to write protections for evil practitioners into law. To the extent that they are sick, we should not grant them legal protections either. Why? Because we love them. And to grant them legal protections would only make it harder to cure them, which would hardly be a loving thing, would it? By now, I hope your skin is crawling. Mine certainly is. But I do not think I have exaggerated anything in this description of the issue from the perspective of certain quarters of the religious world. It upsets me that so many people identify this as the dominant perspective of people of faith on this issue. And I very much believe it is that identification which provides the ideological core of support for the oppression of peoples of minority sexuality in our society. So it is crucial that other people of faith speak up to remind people that there are other religious views that are far more helpful, far more compassionate, far more just, far more true to what we know to be the reality of the human condition, and far more faithful to the spirit and letter of religious teaching about how we are expected to relate to each other in the world. Speaking from a Jewish perspective, our tradition says that each person is created in the image of God, as we've heard. What does it mean then to relate to other human beings with the same sort of respect we should show towards God? It means that human dignity becomes as precious as the honor of God. You cannot offend one without desecrating the other. The various spiritual traditions of the world teach that we should love one another, that each person holds inherent dignity which must be upheld, that we should exercise humility in judgment, generosity in forgiveness, and zeal in regards to the pursuit of justice. It is not an act of piety to demonize your neighbor, painting him or her into the image of evil incarnate. It upsets me that the harshest visions of faith are all too often presented, all too loudly, as the only visions of faith, when very likely the harshest vision of faith has missed the point entirely. All our faith traditions are intended to uphold life and to strengthen our dedication towards goodness and righteousness. Unfortunately, any faith tradition can be twisted and used to oppress others rather than to sanctify ourselves. God has not yet invented a religion that human beings cannot desecrate. Faith traditions are powerful things. As such, they can be utilized for good or for evil. And we have a primary responsibility to make sure they are used for the good. As the Torah words it in Deuteronomy, "See, I have placed before you life and death, the blessing and the curse. Therefore choose life, that you and your children may live." Remember, I said the freedom to work is the freedom to live. Protecting each other's ability to work is protecting each other's ability to live. This voice of faith, therefore, echoes the words, "Choose life, that you and your children may live."